Hey guys, this is EckhartsLadder. Hello and welcome to another Star Wars video. And wouldn't you know, just when I thought I was done talking about Star Wars capital ships from The Rise of Skywalker and the Zeiston Star Destroyer specifically, I'm once again reeled in. This time by a leak of the art book for The Rise of Skywalker, which has apparently somehow happened in Korea. Images have been slowly making their way onto the internet. To my knowledge, at least, the entire book hasn't been scanned or anything, but I've been following the Star Wars leaks subreddit, and there's been a lot of interesting stuff, some of which I'll talk about at the end of today's video. However, one thing that I somehow missed was potential Star Destroyers which were envisioned for Episode 9. And on that note, I have to thank the Twitter follower who actually DM'd me, because without you, I would have totally missed this. So thank you, Arwindra Nabil. These Star Destroyers really break my heart, because this movie really was uninspired in terms of capital ship design. I mean, especially for a third movie of the franchise. Return of the Jedi and Revenge of the Sith both probably have more new ships in a single scene than the entire sequel trilogy. At least new capital ships if we consider, say, the jump to Endor. What Episode 9 gave us was faraway shots of existing assets sort of sloppily repurposed, when it came to the Resistance fleet at Exegol at least, and on the bad guy side, the Rogue One ISD with a cannon on the bottom. Pretty neat. I know I'm being a little bit dismissive, but I'm not a big fan of the Zeiston, and the sequel trilogy was really disappointing in this regard, with some exceptions. But enough talking, let's actually analyze and examine the images themselves. Unfortunately, I do not speak Korean, however I found a keyboard which lets you make Korean characters, and what we get at the bottom of at least the first image says Kairos healing. There's probably an issue with the second bit there, but the key part is Kairos. The translated version of the tweet, which I probably should have looked at earlier, says something similar. Basically, concept art of Kairos command ship of unprecedented scale. Although, as someone pointed out, Cairo was a code for the Knights of Ren Funko Pops, I think it's pretty clear that Cairo means Kylos, and these were images of Kylo's flagships, and they're pretty striking. I love all of these designs really except for one, but I mean, wow. The first is a fairly logical development, I think, of the Resurgent class Star Destroyer. It keeps the architecture that we see in the Resurgent, but also other First Order structures, notably I think Starkiller Base. It exaggerates the sort of mouth that we see on the Resurgent, and it's massive, probably about 10 kilometers, or even larger, because sometimes in the art books, ISDs are meant to be stand-ins for Resurgents. This sort of terrace design is also emphasized in other models. The third image shows us another 10+ kilometer long ship, which I think is most striking because of its sort of unconventional bridge, which looks less like a Resurgent in this case, but quite similar to the Mega Star Destroyer, while still keeping the overall diamond shape of the Resurgent compared to the more triangular shape of a Star Destroyer. It's interesting because most of these ships actually emphasize a particular design element of the Resurgent, the first being the mouth, the third being the terraces, and the fourth being the vertical sort of nose that you can see at the end of the Resurgent, especially in the first scene of The Force Awakens. The fourth one is also neat because, as the third did with the Mega Star Destroyer, it incorporates elements of the Mandator 4, specifically what I would call sort of a floating bridge, almost like the spoiler of a car. All in all, I love these three designs quite a bit, but we also have number 2, which I'm a little less hot on. This ship doesn't really fit the First Order or Imperial aesthetic to me. It looks more like what you'd see with a junker ship, which I think makes sense because we do see a very similar vessel being used for a sort of grappling purpose in early concept art for The Force Awakens. That image also shows us that they were playing around with the idea of a tie having triangular angles for quite some time. Personally, if I were to choose any that I like the most, I think it would be number 3. It's just very striking. I think it would have been a cool silhouette. I like the elements, as I said, of the MSD. I like the size, I like the proportion, and I think it would have been a cool flagship for Kylo or the Knights of Ren. It certainly would have been better than just another Resurgent flying around the galaxy. I mean, he is the new Supreme Leader after all. I do wonder whether these are all meant to be different designs for the same ship conceptualized, or whether perhaps the latter two are different than the first two, or even whether there might be more. We don't know whether these pages are consecutive, or whether anything comes before or after. That being said, this book continues a trend of sequel-era art books just totally showing us the potential that the movies have had, and that was especially the case with TFA. I personally think that the Resurgent is an absolutely stunning design. I love it, but that book also gave us other cool options for the First Order Star Destroyer, which I've covered in a prior video. Just on a side note, The Art of the Force Awakens is one of the hardest books for me to read as a Star Wars fan because there's just so much cool in there that was ultimately abandoned. And we see something similar in The Rise of Skywalker with the book not even out there. There's one scene that I wish more than anything would have made its way into the movie, and that is a First Order occupied Coruscant. We were really robbed the chance to have prequel planets and sort of a prequel tone in the sequel trilogy, and even one scene like this would have helped out so much. Other cool ideas involved an encounter between Kylo and Chewbacca, Rey using a double-sided lightsaber, and a lot more. Personally, I am still really excited to get this book, although I do know that it will hurt me. Anyway guys, that's all I have for today. This is meant to be a fairly short video. Let me know what you thought of these 4 Star Destroyers, which one is your favorite, whether you wish they had been in the movie, I think I know the answer to that mostly, and whether you would have liked any of these designs to replace not only Kylo's command ship, but perhaps the Zeiston itself. Anyway, that's all I have for you. Get out of here, but as always, may the Force be with you.